might be able to hear in my voice that I'm on the tail end of a pretty nasty cold and the weather outside is miserable. You might hear the wind trying to blow through the windows at some point in the video. So I'm thinking instead of focusing on that, I wanted to focus on spring coming up. It's one of my favorite times of year. So I have put together a list of spring crochet patterns and I got kind of inspired making this list. There's a couple things that I really want to make, so hopefully there'll be something on here that you want to make too. So as usual, all of the patterns I mentioned today have been put into a Pinterest board, which will be linked in the video description. And if I look down at any point, that is because I am looking at the patterns on my iPad. Okay, let's go. So first up in the decor category, I've got a few blankets. The first one is this fun, bright, colourful flower one made up of the little flower squares. Or if you wanted something a little more delicate and subtle, you could try this one where the flowers are built into the stitches rather than having to be a different colour. And the third blanket I've got is this tulip one, because if you've watched the channel you might know that tulips are my favourite flower, so I love the tulip stitch. And in this pattern they've done the different rows of tulips are different colours, which I really like because I made this tulip bottle holder a couple of years ago and I changed out the colour for every single tulip and that took quite a lot of work. So I think this is a much more sensible idea. Then if you like the idea of making something with the tulip stitch but don't want to commit to a whole blanket, you could make one of these little baskets to keep your keys in or little trinkets that you have lying around the house. Or another basket is this butterfly basket, which I don't know if you've seen Barbie Fairytopia, but there's something about this basket that is reminding me of that film. You know, with Bibble? Does anyone remember Bibble? Next up, I got this pattern for a table runner, and similarly there's also a tablecloth pattern. Whilst you could obviously follow these letter for letter as a pattern, I really like these two because I think they're just kind of inspiring concepts. Like you could take any flower pattern and sew them all together to make this table runner, or if you like the tablecloth but you wanted a different flower, you could find another flower granny square and stitch them all together. And you could find some in my granny square video. Just saying. Next up, I've got a couple of garland patterns. So I don't know if it's just because I live in the UK, but the flower that I most associate with spring is the daffodil. So I thought this daffodil garland was really nice. Or if you wanted to make something for Easter, you could make this cute little bunny garland with the tiny little pom-pom tails. You could also make yourself some coasters for spring, like these really pretty daisy ones. Or you could make this rose bouquet coaster that looks like a plant pot when you put it away. Though I've heard if you're going to crochet coasters, you should use a cotton yarn instead of acrylic so it properly soaks up the moisture. Next, if you'd like to bring some plants into your house, but you're a plant killer, no judgment, you could crochet some plants because those aren't going to die. So this is actually a link to a bunch of different crocheted houseplant patterns, which I think is really cool. Or if you wanted some flowers, you could make your own crocheted flowers. Obviously I put the pattern for a tulip, but you can find loads of these online for whatever type of flower you like the most. I also really like this pattern for the crochet vines. I think that would look really cool on something like a big bookshelf just hanging down, because I really like the idea of a hanging plant on bookshelves, but I worry about the moisture from watering the plants affecting my books, so this could be a perfect solution to that. And then I found this tiny little baby plant, which I think is meant to be like a hanging card decoration, but I also think it would look really cute on your desk, like hanging off your monitor. Last up in the decor category, I have a couple of pillows for you. So I found this succulent pattern that I thought was really clever. And finally, I found this Miffy pillow. Me and my dad have a bit of a thing for Miffy. We just love her. I made my dad a crocheted Miffy a couple Christmases ago and he loves that. So I do have another Miffy pattern coming up later in this video. Before we move on to our next section, I'd like to take a quick moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. Craftsy is a great online resource for all things creative, from sewing to knitting to cooking and of course crochet. They have over 2,000 classes and more than 20 different categories, which is really great for people like me who love being creative and learning how to make new things. Their classes include step-by-step guides and are inclusive of whether you're a beginner or super experienced. There's something for everybody and they're so easy to understand because they're all led by experts. I love that because I feel like whether you're a beginner learning the basics or a pro learning something particularly complicated, it's always a better experience to learn in a way that's clear and easy to understand rather than having to struggle through trying to piece things together by yourself. So if you're new to crocheting and you want to make something cute for spring but you're a bit intimidated by following a pattern, you could follow along with this class on Amigurumi for beginners and learn how to make a cute little bunny for Easter. Personally, I'm excited to watch this class on yarn dyeing. It's something I've always been interested in, but I don't really know anything about how it works. So I'm really keen to join this class, learn a bit more, and see if it's something I'd like to try out. So the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium Craftsy membership for only $1.49, which is a great deal, and it's around £1.20 for my fellow Brits. Thank you so much to Craftsy for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to some more spring crochet patterns. So the next category I have for you is Amigurumi, which I've put next to decor because I feel like it's kind of decor adjacent. Like a lot of amigurumi that you make, you could use it as like a key ring or a gift for a child, but I think a lot of the time it just works as cute decor, so I thought I'd put them next to each other. So since spring and Easter kind of go hand in hand, I thought I'd put a few little Easter patterns in. So I found these ones which cover chocolate eggs and turn them into little bunnies. Or you could make your own crochet Easter eggs from scratch, like these colourful ones or these really pretty intricate embroidered ones. And then for some more amigurumi, I just kind of started thinking, what animals do I associate with spring? So first up, I've got a couple of chickens. There's this really cute little round pink chicken that I love. Or there's this one, which looks like it's made out of a granny square, which I think is really cool. And I like the idea of making a little set of them. Or I wonder if you could like fill them with rice and use them as little paperweights. Anyway, so next up I've got some bunny patterns. There's this one of a bunny wearing pajamas, which is just too cute. Or there's this dwarf rabbit pattern, which I think the shaping that they've done there is really clever. And final bunny, as promised, it's another Miffy pattern, but this one's really little. Next up I've got some ducks because I love ducks. This first one is a little flower duck, which I have no words for how cute this is. Then I also have this one, which is a duck wearing a cute little hat. Final duck is this tiny little swinging birdie, which again would look very cute in your car or hanging from a monitor, or hanging from a bookshelf would look really cute too. Then I have one pattern for sheep. It's this one. I think they look like tiny little cotton wool balls with adorable faces, and they are perfect. So then moving away from the animals, but only slightly, I found this set of patterns for cat, cactus, amigurumi. Would you call that like a cactus? Or another little plant amigurumi is this potted plant with a tiny little happy smiley face, just to make it extra cute. Or also on the plant vibe, I found this pattern for a teeny tiny snail, and I really want to make one of these and hide it amongst my plants. I thought that would be very cute. And finally in the amigurumi pattern, I found two patterns for spring sprites, like a spring spirit. So the first one is this moss one, and obviously you'd have to get the right yarn to get this effect, but I love this. Or I also found this pattern for an earth sprite with the flower on its head. I think both of these are gorgeous and so unique. Okay, next up we have clothing, and I know what you're thinking, florals for spring.
Thinking I could florals for spring. Groundbreaking.
But I had to go there. Spring is floral, so I've just got 3 floral spring patterns to kind of show a variety of what you could do with florals in spring. So the first one is more of a playful approach. It's got this graph pattern. It's fun. It's kind of like kidcore. Or if you wanted to go on the opposite end of the spectrum, I found this pattern for a very subtle, lacy flower pattern in a top. And then finally, sort of meeting in the middle, is this pattern where it's still that lacy, delicate, feminine type of top, but you've got the different colours in there to make it a little bit more playful and whimsical. Then I found a couple of really fun cardigans. So I got this cloudigan with the graph pattern for clouds on it. And I also found this strawberry themed cardigan made out of all those little squares, which I thought was very fun. So aside from florals, another type of clothing that I just associate with spring is that kind of girly, delicate, coquette type of clothes. So I found a few patterns for those. So first up is this oversized crochet hoodie, and obviously it helps with the girly vibe that it's in this delicate pink, but I think you could make it in any color. And it's kind of a middle ground between being soft and feminine while still getting to be super comfy in a hoodie, which I really liked. Then I found this pattern for a cardigan, which looks like a pretty basic cardigan, but it has a cute little bow tie at the front. Again, with this one, very similar with the bow at the front, but this is more of a lacy, delicate, a bit more of a complicated pattern. Then I found this pattern for this shrug that has the bows going all down the sleeve, which I think is really cool. And then finally, in the kind of girly category, I found this pattern which has the lace-up back and the puffy sleeves. I think it's very much like Disney princess-esque. So then the final group of clothing I had is more of a green, fairy, garden, whimsical type of clothing. So the first one is this beautiful fairy wing top pattern. Then I've got this one with the dragonfly cutouts in it. And I think this is the perfect type of clothing for spring, where it's too hot to wear a jacket, but it's too cold to just wear a top, so you get these light jumpers to just throw over. Same with this mesh jumper. I know these are really popular in crochet communities, but I really like the colours that they've used here. I think it gives that spring earthy vibe. Okay, final category is accessories. So the first few patterns I have are some bandanas. I don't know about you, but if I picture like a fairy tale spring, it's a girl romping through a field of flowers in a flowy dress, bandana in her hair, little basket for picking fruit. Just me? So if you want to lean into that vibe a little bit, you can make yourself a bandana. So first I've got this really simple bandana pattern. Then you could also make this crochet granny square pattern. And then this last one I really want to make. I've put myself on a yarn buying ban. That is not all of my, where am I pointing? That is not all of my yarn. There's also some on the floor, which I'm not going to show you. But I have too much. So I'm on a yarn buying ban until I use some up. And as soon as I have used some up, I want to get a thin red yarn to make this. I love the beads that she's added. I just think it is gorgeous. It might help that she has gorgeous hair, but I'm gonna make it as soon as I'm allowed. As soon as I'm allowing myself to make it, I will make it. This next one I know is very silly, but I love it. It's a hat. It looks like a bluebell on your head. If you want to cosplay as a fairy, this is perfect. Another kind of silly one is this bunny paw scrunchie. If you just want to add a tiny bit of silly but don't want to go full flower on your head, I think this is a really good option. So next up I've got this bow pattern and this flower pattern. And this pattern calls them Irish flowers. I don't know if that's what they're called elsewhere in the world. In England we call them pansies. But I think that pattern's really pretty. And my idea with these is you might have already crocheted a top, or you just want to follow a simple pattern, but then embellish it to make it a bit more unique to you. Or you might already own a top you didn't make, and you can embellish it with these to make more of a personalized item of clothing along that kind of spring cute vibe. Next up, I found these patterns for some cute charms that you could add onto your bags. I really like the 4-leaf clover one in this set, and I really love this sakura blossom one. I think the 5-petaled flowers are just very pretty. Or you can make yourself this pretty floral cable holder to help tidy up all of your cables. Then I know Valentine's Day has already passed, but I feel like it still falls into the general category of spring. I found this stationery case that looks like a love letter, and I also found this book cover with the heart on the front, and I thought both of those patterns were very pretty. Okay, and then the final group of things I have is bags, which I'm going to list in order of progressive silliness, starting with the least silly, finishing with the most silly, aka my favorite. So first up we have this bag, which has a really nice graph pattern of a bee on it. Then we have this bag, which looks like it's made by sewing together loads of tiny little crocheted flowers. I imagine this would take a lot of time, but then I feel like if I made it, it would be my most prized possession because it's beautiful. Then stepping things up to get a little bit sillier, you could actually make a bag that just looks like one giant flower, like this blossom bag or this really fun colourful pansy tote. So then the final level of silliness is these animal bags. So first I have a chicken bag, which I really love. I mean, I love all of these. And then we've got a frog bag, which is just so fun. And finally, my favourite, the pièce de résistance, is this goose bag, where the goose's neck is the handle of the bag. I just love it. I feel like my voice is getting more crackly with the excitement over the goose bag. So I'm sorry about that, but if you make this, please tell me. I think I might have to make this, and if you make it before me, I will be jealous. Oh, that's a good opportunity to plug myself. I am an illustrator, I have an Etsy store, and I make bookmarks with silly geese and serious geese. And these are my favourite bookmarks that I make, I think. So you could go and buy them. I'll put the link to my store in the description. So that is everything I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed the video and maybe even found something you'd like to make. If you did, please let me know in a comment, because I always find it really interesting to see which patterns jump out to you guys. Obviously I have my favourites and I want to know your favourites. Thanks again to Craftsy for sponsoring this video. It's actually my first ever sponsorship, which is very exciting for me. So I will put their link in the description, as well as all of my links to my social media and my Etsy store if you'd like to check that out. That would be really great for me. If you like the video, please like the video. And if you'd like to see some more content from me, then please press subscribe. I make crochet content, and this year I'm going to be trying to make some more general creative cozy content too. So if that sounds like fun to you, then you can subscribe and join me for it. I hope you have a really great rest of your day or evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are watching this, and I will see you next time. Bye!